All right, there you have it. So we continue to gather more information. Again, a very brief news conference with the Palm Beach County Sheriff as well as others, including representatives from the FBI and Secret Service Miami offices. We could potentially get more information later on today in the coming hours. Essentially, at this point, they are not releasing the identity of the man who was fatally shot, saying simply that he is in his 20s, but they are still working to let the family members know. So we expect we could get that later on today. The one thing you saw was the photo that was released of the shotgun itself. They held it up so that folks there could see it. Now, it is 9:40 on the East Coast and 6:40 on the West Coast, and there is a lot to discuss about this breaking story that we are following. So I want to bring in a great friend of the show here. We have Bobby McDonald, who is a former Supervisory Secret Service agent, joining us now live. And Bobby, as always, thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Josh. Great to see you again.
Good morning. Well, of course, we're getting a lot of the information here coming in. We're talking about an intruder who investigators say was carrying what appeared to be a gas can as well as a shotgun, fatally shot there on the property of Mar-a-Lago. Important to note that President Trump is not there. He's over in Washington. Kind of break down for me your assessment there as a former Supervisory Secret Service agent. As you get this information, break down kind of your thoughts overall.
Well, as we've spoken before, Josh, with the numerous events we've covered together, an outdoor property like that, a lot of acreage, a lot of space to cover with cameras and fences. I'm very happy to see that once that the intruder was noticed, officers and agents went to that spot to intercept that person. Unfortunately, was shot and killed based upon the items that it appears that he had in his hand, which is a gasoline can and a shotgun. He wasn't there for any good purposes, and we don't ever like to see anybody killed in an incident like this. So you're going to see the officers and agents now go on administrative leave while the investigation continues. They're going to make sure that those officers and agents went through all of the proper protocols with respect to trying to de-escalate the situation before they had to move to their weapons to negate the individual's movements within the property. So going to be a lot going on here. You saw a very succinct and to the point sheriff there kind of controlling that press conference, not giving out a lot of information. A lot of the incidents we've been talking about lately, the press conferences haven't gone very well. So this sheriff is on top of this. You're going to also, very interesting to note, the FBI special agent in charge made sure to announce that everybody should check their Ring cameras. We really haven't heard that before in a lot of different press conferences, that's now kind of the new flavor of the day to enhance our investigations with the Ring and Nest cameras that people have on their houses. So we got, as you said a minute ago, we got a lot going on here, and hopefully going to find out some more things as the day goes on.
This might be a tough question to answer, but I mentioned it here several times that President Trump is in Washington. Now, normally he spends his weekends there at Mar-a-Lago. That's his home there in Florida, in Palm Beach County, but he is over in Washington. Does that change anything about the response overall from the Secret Service when there are no, let's say, protectees, including the president, who are there on the property at the time?
No, with respect to perimeter security, that's going to remain in place all the time. The things that are going to change when the president and or his family is in residence is going to be the actual detail around those protectees. So from a perimeter standpoint, nothing's changing with respect to the basic perimeter plan that's in place. And that may even get larger when the president is there, but the basic perimeter security plan is going to always remain in place.
And we're waiting right now to hear some reaction from President Trump. I'm sure we'll either hear from him in person on camera there at the White House, or potentially could hear from him on Truth Social a bit sooner. So we'll, of course, bring that to you as we get it. And Bobby, I wanted to ask, because you mentioned this kind of off the top, the U.S. Secret Service agents who are involved in this, they are being placed on administrative leave, but that is standard procedure, correct?
That is correct. Anytime anybody is involved in a traumatic incident, whether it be, a terrible car accident or a shooting or something like this, it's standard operating procedure that those individuals are put onto an administrative position to A, assist in the investigation with interviewing and whatnot, B, to make sure that they get the necessarily medical treatment or mental health counseling or regular counseling to help them get through the situation. Look, it's a traumatic situation to have to draw your weapon, pull that trigger, and then ultimately shoot somebody and kill them in this incident. incident. So they're going to be taken care of with respect to investigating what happened with them and what happened with the incident. So yes, that is a standard operating procedure in just about all law enforcement agencies.
And I wanted to kind of get your take on this because, as you mentioned, the sheriff there, Rick Bradshaw, over in Palm Beach County, not releasing a lot of information. He kept it fairly concise there. We're talking about a 5-minute news conference. No real questions about it, but he made it very clear off the top. We're not going to speculate. We're not going to give you any kind of questions about what if. We're just going to give you the basics. And if you don't have any follow-up questions that are related to basics, we are not going to answer them. So as far as other information that we could get, just based on your experience, do you think, aside from the identity of the person here, are we potentially going to get any more information, especially considering that this suspected intruder is now deceased?
Well, we're going to get his identity relatively shortly, and the agents of the FBI, in concert with the local police and the Secret Service, are doing a deep dive on this individual. They're knocking on his door to see if he lived with his parents or if he lived with somebody, finding out what's going on with him, talking to his neighbors. As we've said numerous times with you, Josh, with respect to school shootings or other incidents, what's up with this guy? Is he having a drug and alcohol problem? Is he having mental health issues? Did he just break up with his girlfriend? Is he out of a job? What has he been posting on social media? What other weapons, if any, are at his home or in his car? So there's a lot going on that we will be able to find out about this individual, despite the fact that he's unfortunately deceased in this matter.
On that same note, and you just touched on that, but where does the investigation likely go from here? You mentioned that they're going to go, likely knock on his door, see who he lived with, if he potentially lived with his parents or someone else, his social media presence, a lot, I imagine, that they are going to be looking into now.
Yeah, the investigation is going to be, as I said, moving on to what's going on in his life. We're obviously not needing, unless there are some accomplices in this case, we're not needing to move ahead with a criminal case or a prosecution anytime we get a deceased person with respect to what went on. So if there's others that were involved, if he had help, if his parents were fully aware of it, who bought the gun for him, all of those things, those pieces of the puzzle need to be put together so that we can get a good picture of this individual, which then can help us with other individuals that we come across. We always talk about the see something, say something. Somebody knows what was going on with this individual. Somebody knows something in the Mrs. Guthrie case. We've got to find out who those people are and see what's going on with the people around us. If your friends, if your neighbors, if your son, daughter are having trouble, let's get people the help they need. Let's talk to our people. Let's talk to our kids, our students. Find out what's going on, because we've got to be able to stop these things from happening in the future.
I have to imagine each kind of, let's call it an incident. I know that's probably an understatement for what it is, but each incident like this kind of serves maybe as a learning experience, because you have the situation that happened with President Trump when he was running for his second term over at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. You had a specific reaction there. Now you saw Secret Service, other agencies that were there act incredibly fast in this situation. So like I mentioned, each incident kind of serving as a learning experience.
Yeah, you and I have talked about the Butler incident numerous times over the last 18 months. And as I've said to you before, this was a reset for the Secret Service to be able to look what went wrong at Butler as that starting point and build on those incidents as we've moved forward, whether it was the incident with the individual that just was sentenced recently or this incident. The Secret Service has now been able to put together a reset package to get extra personnel, extra assets, extra funding. It's not about just funding and not about things. It's about the people that are working for the Secret Service. They are in the midst of a huge hiring initiative right now, hoping to get another 2,000 agents on board. So again, a lot going on, but as I've said to you many times, the Secret Service must be perfect every day and then get better. The mission has a no-fail policy, and the men and women of the Secret Service, despite the issues that we've had over the last 18 months, go out and do the very best they can every single day to make sure that the protectees under their care are well taken care of.
When you talk about going back to the investigation itself, how do all of these agencies work together? Again, the sheriff was leading that news conference. You have, of course, local law enforcement involved. You have federal law enforcement talking about the FBI and the Secret Service. How exactly do they go about working together kind of cohesively as one?
Well, one of the things that the Secret Service has traditionally done very well is liaison with other agencies. The Secret Service cannot go into cities and towns across the country or around the world and do what it does without any help from state, local, and federal partners. So the Secret Service has always known the abilities of other agencies and how they can assist us in our protective mission. At a place like Mar-a-lago, you have different agencies working together every day. So they already have in place a good working relationship. And obviously, these incidents that have happened, over the last year have even brought them tighter to be able to communicate, to be able to pass intelligence information to other agencies. All those agencies need to put aside their egos with respect to something like this. We've seen it in other cases across the country. You sometimes feel a little tension between agencies. That is not the case here, and you can see by those three agencies at the podium this morning and that sheriff with the initial response there of taking charge of that incident. They want to make sure that this goes right. Nothing from an information standpoint gets out there incorrectly, and we can continue forward. We're at an age now, Josh, where we want information now. We want it yesterday. And a lot of times, law enforcement agencies aren't very good at those public relations press conferences and things of that nature. So this was quick, tight, to the point, gave the news media a little bit to chew on there that the investigation is going on, but they've got to be working hard to make sure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed to make sure that we continue to protect the president, the vice president, their families, and their properties to make sure that nothing like this continues to happen.
And on this program here over the years, we've spoken with Sheriff Rick Bradshaw a lot. He is a matter of fact, down to the information, doesn't want to speculate. He is somebody who just gives you the facts and says, this is how it is. So I'm not surprised by that brief news conference there saying we are not going to speculate or anything like that. What kind of questions do you have, just based on your experience, your law enforcement experience? What question or questions do you have that you hope maybe could be answered either in the coming day or days?
Well, I think we know that the individual was there for nefarious actions. It's unfortunate we're not going to get a chance to interview him to see what his exact situation was. Why did he go there with the shotgun and the fuel? Was there something in the news that got him rolling to feel the need to get over there? You've also heard me say, Josh, many times, I'm not a politician, I'm not a political scientist, but there's a lot of rhetoric out there going on in politics that just is churning people up with a lot of different things. And I'm not blaming this on that. But there's a lot of just hatred out there that we've got to get over, and we've got to make sure that we're situationally aware of the people around us, our family members, our brothers and sisters, as I said a few minutes ago. People out there are having problems, whether it's mental health, financial, drug and alcohol, job-related, relationship problems. We've got to be situationally aware to see what's going on with the people around us, and then have the guts to stand up and get them the help or say something to hopefully negate these type of things happening. Everybody who's having trouble is not going to go to this extreme, but we've got to make sure that when we start seeing indicators where somebody might be going to be causing some damage or some harm in this case, we've got to stand up and say something and take care of that situation.
And we are still waiting on potentially more information, but also a statement from President Trump, either on Truth Social or in person. We know he is at the White House right now. He's actually, I believe, scheduled to be in a meeting at this point, but I'm sure he's been informed, no question, that all of this happened. Bobby McDonald, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here with us and helping to kind of explain this a little bit further from your expertise. Is there anything we missed, anything that you want to make sure to add here before I let you go?
Well, again, I think we've got to start dealing with the issues that are in front of us. We've had a lot of assassination attempts in the last 18 months on various individuals, both attempts and actual assassinations. So this is a tough time. Again, we've got to be paying attention to what's going on around us and make sure that we try to get people the help that they need, whether it's mental health, drug and alcohol, job, workforce, stuff like that. We've just got to be on top of it, and we're just not doing a very good job of that right now.
Bobby McDonald, thank you so much, as always, for being here with us and helping us to break it down. We appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Josh. See you on the next one.
See ya.